Hello, and welcome to the Gospel-Centered Education Podcast, where we connect the dots between kids, teens, culture, and biblical truth. My name is Kelly Allen, and this is our host, Tom Argersinger.
And this week, we're unpacking one of my favorite topics, which is the leaders we need and why we don't have them. Let's get to it.
You are listening to the Gospel-Centered Education Podcast, brought to you by Community Christian School in Tallahassee, Florida.
Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here with us. And we're here today to talk about leadership, one of my favorite topics.
Yes.
So let's get into it.
Okay, so we're talking about what sort of leaders we need today.
Right.
And what I want to ask you is, what do you think are the top 3 characteristics emerging leaders need to master?
Yeah, man, it's always a hard question because there are so many in a modern, complex environment. There's a lot of pressure on leaders to succeed in various ways. And so I know you've done some research on this. We've done some research on this.
Yeah.
But also, and I think what's risen to the top are 2 or 3 that kind of rise to the top.
Yeah.
One of them is the ability to set vision, to be able to think about a preferred future.
Yeah.
So comes very easily to some people for whatever reason, just the way they're wired.
Yeah.
Other people, not so much. Once that vision comes to the way things should be, that preferred future, then the question becomes, well, how do we get there?
Right.
And that gets connected to strategic thinking.
Yes.
Every once in a while you run into, especially founders, who may have a certain vision or a big picture they're trying to get to.
Right.
But then they don't really know exactly how to get there. So hopefully, if they want to be successful, they hire strategic thinkers.
Yeah.
To come in there and go, okay, well, this is how we make this into a reality.
Yeah.
Right. But I think in most organizations, you can find it happens that there's both. You either one person does both, or you have 2 people that can kind of work together.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that organization where the leader isn't thinking in a visionary way, and they're just kind of putting out fires? They're just kind of running status quo.
Yes.
And they're not thinking visionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could it could be because they don't think in a visionary way.
Yeah.
Or the job is just not set up to allow it. And this is where a lot of school leaders have a whole host of problems.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because schools are so complex, and there's so many things that happen in a fairly good-sized school on a given day. There's not a lot of time left to say, okay, I'm going to, practice deep thinking now.
Right. Yeah. When do you have time for that?
Yeah. Shut the door to my office, and then, there we go. And some people find the only way to do that is to get off campus for a little bit, like an hour or 2, and so they can focus enough to think about where do we go from here.
Yeah, pastors do that. They do like a sabbatical.
Yeah.
So we need to allow our principals to do that.
I know, right? That actually in the end would end up producing more reflective people, which in the end will make reflective leaders. By the way, one of the things I don't think showed up on the list, but I would say should be on the list is the ability to self-reflect.
Yeah.
The ability to be self-aware, look in the mirror, own your own stuff, and the ability to self-reflect, to think about things deeply and consider decisions very carefully. And now you can't do that all the time, but some big decisions, need to be really carefully laid out and thought through. So that's one interestingly, I've never seen that on a top 10 list.
Yeah.
Because it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not high powered.
Yeah. Well,
you
think leaders, I want a leader to get stuff done, not just sit there thinking.
Yeah.
But you need to do that.
I know, right? Yeah. That's the funny thing. It's like thinking is optional.
Yeah.
We just need you to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is that working out for people?
Right. It's not.
There's a lot of organizations and ministries or businesses or whatever where that's happening, kind of that idea of just fast is always better. Just like bigger is always better.
Right.
Neither one of those things are true.
Right.
Bigger is not always better in business or anything else. And fast is not always the right way either. Having said that, are things very fast moving? Well, yes, they are today, and we'll get into that a little bit. So you got a list. Why don't you read some of that list of top leaders? Like there was a question about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was that question about? What was it again?
Let me see. Okay, the question was, what would average people list as great leaders today?
Yeah.
And
fascinating list.
So on numerous websites, people listed Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Warren Buffett.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which immediately begs the question to me, and that is, what defines a great leader?
Right.
I'm guessing they would say, well, impact.
Yeah.
Impact on society, a society. Like for you take Steve Jobs as an example. Steve Jobs was obviously a genius. He was an incredible visionary, and he was also very strategic in the way he thought, in the way he worked.
Yeah.
Was he an easy boss to be around? Like if you worked for him?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? And he has that reputation. In fact, there's a lot of founder types that have that reputation. So if you measure leadership purely in societal impact, yeah. I mean, personal smartphones, right?
Right.
So basically affected, what, 3/4 of the globe?
Yeah, I like my
Apple
Apple
phone.
phone.
That, there you like your, nice product placement, shout out, very good, yeah. So, and so could you say, if you use that definition, was Steve Jobs one of the greatest leaders ever? If you simply look at an impact and outcome that's affected a lot of people's lives,
right?
Yes. Has that impact universally positive?
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but now, and so that gets tricky, right? So, but anyway, I thought that was an interesting list. I mean, the other people are. Go ahead. What?
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you do think leaders are great. Are good if they do have high impact. However, when you go to work with that person, we've all had that boss who has, run the company well, but there's a lot of turnover.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Burn people out and that kind of thing. Right. And so I think with the other people on the list, what'd you say? Steve Jobs,
Bill Gates, Elon Musk.
Right. So stop there for a second.
Yeah.
So they're all tech giants, right?
Yeah.
Clearly major impact on the way we live. Again, how's that working? In some cases, great. Some cases, not. And then Nelson Mandela, who just helped free a bunch of people, is fourth.
Yeah.
So again, I get it, right? Because his impact was South Africa,
right?
Primarily, that's not really true. It was really worldwide, but fundamentally, it was South Africa. And so same thing with Martin Luther King, who I think is next on the list. This list. So again, relatively compared to 3/4 of the globe,
right?
Relatively small impact, at least at the time.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, will we still remember Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King as doing exceptional things for humans that were very, very, very good by almost everybody's assessment?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably we'll still be talking about them in 100 years.
That's so true.
By the time we get to 100 years of technology, people will remember Steve Jobs in a photo array, or he was the father of the smartphone.
Yeah.
The what?
Yeah.
The what?
What is that?
So exactly. But that doesn't negate that doesn't negate his thinking. So visionary thinking is one.
Yeah.
Right. What's the second one on the list again?
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Really huge. I think that's one of the biggest ones, especially today. I mean, some of the stats are a little bit frightening, just about the number of people that struggle with. We've talked about this on the podcast, emotional health and dealing with emotional issues. And pressure at work is one of the main drivers of emotional issues.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if a leader doesn't have the ability to connect with people, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because everyone expects it, and everybody has a different personality, right? Some people are just natural connectors.
Yeah.
I don't really see myself as a natural connector. I think I have to work at it, and probably the people that know me would have to tell me, but I think you can learn over time to be a better connector. Now, at the end of the day, if you have a more introverted personality, it's going to drain you to do the connections. You may be really good at it in the moment, but then you go home and collapse.
Yeah.
If you're a naturally gregarious, do you feel like you're a natural connector type?
I like one-on-one, but like groups.
Oh, okay.
kind of intimidate me a little bit.
Okay. So that would be more draining working with a group.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say a good leader trains other leaders? Because I could see someone like Steve Jobs, he's someone that's going to lead and maybe dictate.
Yeah.
But what about connecting with people and, training other leaders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I guess you could look at it a lot of different ways. Yeah. For me, for example, in a gospel-centered school sense, like we have here at CCS, the leadership program definition of what leadership is. A leader is someone who takes the initiative to inspire and influence people towards true success.
Yeah.
So did these people on the list do that? Did they take the initiative to influence and inspire people towards true success? Well, the whole definition is built on the definition of what true success is.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day. I just finished a book recently called Dirtbag Billionaire.
Okay.
It's by a New York Times guy, I think, writer, but it's the story of Yvon Chouinard with Patagonia.
The brand.
The brand. Amazing story. Ended up really giving his money away at the end here. He's 85 now, but he's basically given the company's money away to environmental causes. That's his big cause. So was he a great leader? Did he take the initiative, clearly took a ton of initiative, to influence and inspire people? Absolutely. True success for Yvon Chouinard with Patagonia, and they say it now in their revised mission statement, is we exist to save the planet. That's their mission statement.
Okay.
So that is his cause, right?
Yeah.
Gospel-centered schools have a different cause, but there's a sense in which we exist to help people develop a worldview, to be able to see the world the way Jesus sees it, and to make a contributory difference in the world, right? But the question is, did he actually fulfill that definition? Yeah, he did. Did people love working with Yvon Chouinard? Not according to the stuff I've read. Not so much. Okay. A lot of similarities.
Yeah.
He was just like with Steve Jobs. Great attention to detail. Prescribed, very prescriptive. Was not so much into empowering people to think on their own.
Okay.
Till later in his life.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to throw him under the bus.
No.
I mean, clearly super successful.
Yeah.
Monetarily. Right. But back to your point. Back to your question. Should leaders raise up leaders? Yes. For me, they should. That should be a part of the equation. And why? Because the world has so few good leaders.
Right.
They have a lot of transactional leaders that will get you to do something for them by leveraging you or incenting you. So it's a very transactional, even though they're exhibiting EQ.
Right.
As they do it, but the real point of it is it's really all about the transaction. And I'm not naive, by the way. There is a part of leadership that at the end of the day, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we can't live with that.
Right.
So there is a sense in which, but if that's the driving force for leadership, wherever you happen to be as a leader today, whether it's schools or business or a small business or anything, I don't think that matches the definition of true success to me. I think good leaders create space for other people to grow as leaders.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Because then you got to give them responsibility.
Because they're going to mess up a little bit.
They're going to mess up. And if it's all about fast, back to that other point, then if it's all about fast, why would I ever do that? If I can do something better than you, why would I ask you to do it?
Right.
Well, because there's a limit to how much I can actually fit into a day, right? There's that.
Yeah.
Like logistics. But even beyond that, if I really care about you as a human being and I care about leadership writ large, in other words, the world needs more good leaders, then I'm going to try to create space and empower you to get better at being a leader, which means, as you pointed out, you're going to mess up. Now, as long as you don't, lose $18 billion.
Yeah.
But so I think it's a hard thing to do as a leader, but for me, it's deeply connected, those two things.
Yeah, I could see.
It's a good question, though, really good question.
I could see that's a tough balance.
Yeah.
And then the third thing on the list of leadership qualities would be adaptability and resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, a recent Harvard Business School study, and I think Stanford or MIT did a similar study and said the same thing. The number one leadership trait for leaders to have today, the necessary trait, is not using AI. It's actually knowing how to adapt to volatility.
Yeah.
Which opens up the whole VUCA discussion, which we'll get to in a second.
Yes, I have some things to say
about that. So yeah, so because of the extreme volatility, both economically and socially and really politically and all those things, technologically, it's tough to be a leader, and you have to be able to know how to ride those waves, navigate. You have to know when to dive in, when to float,
right,
in a sense, and when to paddle. A terrible analogy, but you get the idea,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
To be able to know which of those to employ at a given moment in time, and I think that's the adaptability thing.
Yes.
To what's you're reading what's happening in real time. I was just doing a training for classroom teachers this morning, actually, and we were talking about that. With assessment, can you see a kid in a class, and can you be aware enough working with that kid to be able to assess informally in the moment what they need, and then be able to adapt instruction to address that? That's a leadership trait too.
Yeah.
How can you look at your people and say, this person needs this, but this person needs that?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah, it's a tricky thing.
You know, my child has had some excellent teachers at CCS, but I'm thinking of one in particular that pointed out my child and her specific needs that she needed in her math class, and I'm thinking, how did the teacher that has a full class of, how many kids, 15, 16 kids in the class, she's able to point out the specific needs of my daughter. That's an awesome leader. It is an awesome leader.
Yeah. And I love hearing the fact that the teacher responded the way they did.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is there about a person that allows them to be able to do that?
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, as a human being, why are some people so good at that?
Well, this particular teacher has been doing it for many, many years. So I would imagine that she's had room to grow.
Yep. But and it's a skill.
Yeah.
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 Go ahead.
And we were talking about last week, just the mission and the vocation, and I think the calling. Yeah, I think this teacher definitely exhibits that. She's, very passionate about what she does.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's also on a real practical level. I think it's the ability to have awareness of what's going on around you. It's like whenever we teach people about classroom management, behavior management, the number one skill set is being aware of what's happening in the room. At any given moment in time, even when your back's turned.
Yeah.
The whole eyes in the back of your head thing, right? That parents, moms especially seem to have.
Yeah.
That's a thing. I mean, the idea that if I'm looking at you, but I'm aware of what's going on in other places peripherally, then that tends to make someone who can make good decisions regarding behavior management.
Yeah.
And when you do video with people, it's interesting, like a teacher. So you're watching a video with them, and they're leading the classroom, they're doing their thing, and you point to the video and go, see this over here? This kid's like snoring and has his foot up on the desk, sleeping. Did you notice that? And they're like, no.
Oh, wow.
Never noticed that.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I had teachers like that.
Yeah, me too. That's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to really try to fix that because. And what I learned was it's really hard to teach self-awareness. It's hard to teach self-awareness, and it's hard to teach awareness like that, like visual, spatial.
Yeah.
That's really hard to teach somebody if they're not good at it.
Right.
I think that is a lesser-known trait of a great teacher.
Yeah, I agree.
They have that so that they can do what they did with your kid.
Yeah.
But they had to have that ability to start with, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
Good. So
okay, you brought up VUCA.
Yeah.
And what that is
such a buzzword, isn't it?
It is these days. But it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity that you meet in the world today.
Yeah, which is 100% true.
Yeah. So I came across
it's
interesting
like the anti-VUCA
It was anti-VUCA.
Right?
It was, instead of survival, this was on fejobs.com.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to give you the VUCA term, and you tell me what the anti is, okay? Can we do that?
Well, yeah, so I want to mention this. Instead of survival, it's thrival.
Yeah. We got to read the whole sentence because I love this sentence.
VUCA is now about thrival rather than just survival. VUCA leaders do this as follows.
Yeah. So it's like they just made up a word.
Yeah.
I've never seen that word before. Have you?
Thrival. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
It's like it's about thriving, not surviving.
Yeah.
I've never seen that form of the word. But anyway, so okay.
I'm here for the positivity.
That's exactly what we're doing right now. We're doing the positive spin. So VUCA. So the V in VUCA normally is volatility, but instead of volatility, it's
vision.
Yes. So what does that mean? What we talked about before, I guess, the visionary leader.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Strong objectives and all of that. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the next one? U. So rather than uncertainty, it's
understanding.
Yeah. I'm feeling more positive right
Me
now
too.
just by hearing this anti-VUCA stuff.
Yeah.
And which is kind of what because I think they say in the text, like, stop, look, and listen.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It is great.
But it's kind of like defining what reflection is.
Right.
Yes, you stop and you look and you listen. So I think they're right. I think it's funny the way that they did that.
I think it's great.
No offense to them. I think it was great. So the C of VUCA is complexity. The anti-VUCA thing is
clarity.
Yes.
Communicating clearly. Yeah.
Communicating clearly and being able to clearly understand. I guess you can kind of mold these together. Okay.
Yeah.
The last A in the real VUCA is ambiguity, but instead it's
agility.
It's like have you ever seen these memes on the internet of like LinkedIn, all these memes of like these like business jargon. Let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
And all these things. And then there's actually one, I don't know who put it on, but one of them where they actually act out the thing.
Oh.
And it's like, let's get our ducks in a row. This guy literally
He's putting ducks in a row.
Anyway, just reminded me of that. So what do you think what do you reckon they mean by agility? I mean,
promote flexibility, adaptability, and agility.
I think it's what we said.
Yeah.
I think it's being able to adapt to new information and new stuff as you go along.
Yeah, it also talks about planning ahead.
Yeah. Planning is an interesting thing, because like if you talk about strategic plans, for instance, used to be that companies would do, and schools would do, districts would do 10-year strategic plans. Mm-hmm. That has really shrunk. And then for a long time, it was 3 to 5 year strategic plans. Mm-hmm. And there are some people now saying there's no such thing as a strategic plan. Mm. The level of volatility is so high, there's no point.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Because then they quote the whole thing from the military. It's like no plan survives the first bullet and shot and all this kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the pessimistic approach.
It is the pessimistic approach. It is. There's some truth to it.
Yeah.
But I think having at least a strategy and at least a skeleton of a plan, like an outline, I think is very important.
Yes.
Because otherwise, how are you making decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the leadership program, we talk about whitewater decision making. This idea that. You a lot of times have to make like in a whitewater rafting situation, the guide is making decisions really fast because everything's changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
So whitewater decision making is what we talk about. That's increased. There's more whitewater decision making because of the increased volatility.
Right.
But the only way to make good whitewater decisions is to have a pre-existing foundation of truth and pillars. And experiences that you can draw on in real time.
Right.
That's really, really important. If you don't spend time, that's built in reflection. So whitewater decision making works great, and it has to because it's necessary a lot of times. But if you don't do your homework and you don't build the base underneath that as a leader, then you're going to make some really bad whitewater decisions in the moment. And that's not really great.
Yeah.
So in a business community, you're going to lose money. And in a nonprofit or a school, you're going to lose money. and you're probably going to do a poor job at a poorer job at least, at whatever you're doing.
Right.
So you're going to respond in ways that aren't really very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that is true. Strategy that we talked about, the plans. I think you still need a plan of some sort, even with all the volatility. Mm-hmm. I would say anyway.
Yep.
For sure.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an important thing. So I think we need to get to one of the questions that I think is why don't, because I think our premise today, our main guiding question was, why don't we have the leaders we need?
Yeah.
So if you can do Google searches and you can ask AI, or you can just talk to people and we can come up with all these traits, right?
Yeah.
So what's the obvious answer? Just build people with these traits.
Build people with these traits?
Yeah, build people with all these great traits.
Right.
It's just not that easy.
It's not.
It is not that easy.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot, I talk a lot lately about this concept of forming and forging.
Yeah.
And I use those terms because I love those words, first of all. They're very descriptive. And so forming is how we're shaped by our environment in more or less positive or neutral ways. So that might be somebody believing in you. And saying you're going to do a great job, and God has a purpose for your life, and all these kind of things. So that forms the way you see yourself and your identity and your purpose and your meaning in the world, and that's awesome. We need to be formed in those ways, but really the way we really grow the most is through forging, which is really suffering.
Yeah, you can apply that to raising kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of those things.
What does that look like for you? I mean, how does that
Well,
I
was just thinking when you said, it's kind of the positive approach where you're like, you're going to do great.
Yeah.
It forms how they see themselves.
They can, if as long as it's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But with the forging, you kind of have to let them go through some things.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the term, right? Because it really is not supposed to be either or. It's like there's supposed to be compassion.
Yeah.
But there's also creating space for life to do its work.
Yeah.
And we would say, as Christians, for God to do his work through the circumstances of life, through suffering. So sanding off the rough edges, and just going through stuff that you have to figure out how to walk through to increase your faith and all those things.
Yeah.
And that's, you brought up the whole parenting thing, which we've talked about, and we'll talk about again, but it's one of the biggest challenges for modern parents is that.
Yes.
We want them
it's hard
formed,
to see.
We don't want them forged.
Yes.
Because that's going to hurt them. Well, it can be painful in the moment, but it's going to be much better later if it's done well.
Yeah.
So forming and forging is, and therefore, so think of it this way, why aren't there more really good leaders? Well, it starts with being raised. It's where it begins, right? So the way kids are raised does have an impact on how they lead later on.
Yeah. Because they've already gone through that forging.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's already begun.
As opposed to if, when they're grown up and then their boss is trying to, help them be forged in different ways. And
correct. Right.
Yeah,
and they just realize, but that is part of life, and that's true. So obviously it can be overdone, it can be done poorly, and it can be abusive and all that. We're not talking about that.
Right.
But the very idea of just experiencing difficulties and that's how you grow, that's what develops, big buzzword, grit.
Right.
That's how you get grit.
I think CCS does that really well with its students.
I think so. I think we try to do it.
That's interesting to think of it from a leadership aspect, though. Yeah. Like, are you doing that with those that you are leading?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's by the way connected to the last thing we were talking about, and that is when you empower leaders, you're setting them up.
Yes. Because
then they'll have to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
And that's okay as long as you support, right? So high expectations, high support, and in our case, high faith, they all go together.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting equation. It's really hard to build great leaders without adversity. I don't think it's even possible.
Right.
To build great leadership without adversity, which is the forging. Which, by the way, the American military, I think, generally does a really good job of raising up, especially certain branches, which I won't mention, don't get people in trouble.
Yep.
But my son happens to be in the military, and he happens to be in the Army. and I will mention one branch because he's in it. And there's a lot of situations where the Army does a great job in training leaders. West Point, for instance, my father-in-law used to be a representative for West Point.
Okay.
And they do a phenomenal job of training leaders. Well, what's part of it? Forging.
Yeah.
It's hard. You do hard things. You survive them, you work together, you collaborate, you get through it, you look back on it, and you go, wow, I really grew. And that is the key, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so forming and forging,
what is one
important.
of the axioms that CCS teaches? Isn't like improvise, adapt, and overcome? Yeah. We use that at our house because my kids learned it at CCS. I'm like, you know, if they're having a problem with somebody, I'm like, improvise, adapt. Overcome.
I know, yeah, right. That's actually, I think that came from the Marines originally, but I think that I think that's a super important point. And in order to, it was back to the adaptation, right? You have to adapt. And eventually, hopefully, you will overcome kind of in the process. So I think we have a couple more questions, though. That probably relate to that question about why don't we have more / better leaders? Yeah,
let's see. Well, we have the question of what is the burnout rate?
Yeah. Why don't you share some of those stats? Because some of those stats were, semi-alarming.
Okay, so this is the burnout rate for nonprofit and education leaders today.
Right.
And this is from nonprofitpro.com. And it says 95% of leaders express some type of concern about burnout. 95%.
95%, yeah.
And
pretty much everybody.
Yeah, and then 34% report that staff burnout has been very much a concern to them in the last year.
Right, and the whole deal with surveys, and my take on surveys is when somebody puts very much, it's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
So that's 34%.
That's a third of people. I mean, that is huge. The same thing, I think we might have touched on Philanthropy Today last week, but Philanthropy Today is a great organization that talks about nonprofits and philanthropy, obviously.
Right.
Raising money and things. And that's their take. I mean, that volatility we've been talking about has so destabilized everything, or most things, that the burnout rate, they were coming at it also. I just remember this when you brought it up. They came at it with their own stats and saying similar things. The burnout rate is just skyrocketing among nonprofits.
Right.
Right, because even economically, right, nonprofits just can't raise their prices.
Right.
It's not the way nonprofits work. And most of them don't have prices. They rely on, Christian schools are weird. They're like a combination of a business and a nonprofit. Yeah. They're a nonprofit business, which is weird. Yeah. So we charge, but we also have to raise money as well because the tuition doesn't cover everything that we do. But you think about a nonprofit that doesn't charge anything. It's all donations. I mean, they are suffering big time. Yeah. And it's a tough thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, another thing that I saw on K12dive.com is half of school leaders say their stress is so high that they are considering a career change or early retirement.
Yeah, and by the way, I think this is the time to make the big announcement that I was going to make. I'm just kidding.
Hang in there, Tom.
That's totally not true. I do think it's, but I'm like not shocked.
Yeah.
I am not shocked because school, I was talking to somebody today and just working in schools, I use the word complex because I don't know what other word to use. I mean, it's incredibly complex. And with complexities come stresses. Yeah. Because those are stressors and then people's ability to process stress. Like everybody has their own level. Like I'm sure you, me, I mean, everybody we know. So you may, if it's like scale of 1 to 10, so some people, like a Navy SEAL's ability to process stress is probably like a 9 or a 10. Average, third grade mom who just doesn't do what Navy SEALs do, et cetera, hasn't had that training. Right. I mean, I'll let you throw a number on it since you're a mom.
Well,
the ability to process stress and still keep going.
I would
it's probably
say
pretty high.
The ability to process
stress? Ability to process and still keep going and be relatively sane in the process.
I mean, but not as high as a Navy SEALs.
Right. Yeah. And so my point is that, and I think moms are actually pretty good at it, right? Dads, I don't know. Maybe dads are less good at it. I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
But the point is, I won't ask you to comment on Dustin. Yeah. I promise I won't ask you to do that. So, but my point is that everybody has their point, right? Yeah. Even a Navy SEAL, like they may be able to do anything militarily, but then in their family, it's a complete wreck.
Yes.
And they can't process the stress of the marriage,
true.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's all, it's kind of an interesting combination of things. Yeah. The point is that different people everybody has a limit of how much they can process.
Yeah.
With school leaders, what's happening is it was always kind of bumping up against the limits for leaders, and now it's just like, it's just crossing that boundary.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking before we started recording about your walk through New York City.
Yeah,
and I was thinking I couldn't handle the things that you saw.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting short trip. But and we used to live there, of course. Yeah. And so if you get used to it, sort of, it still bothers you in some ways, but you're not shocked.
Yeah.
Right. So so I think this is an interesting thing. So why is there so much burnout? A, there's more volatility, there's more stressors. B, I think our ability to deal with it maybe has been impaired some too, because of not taking care of ourselves physically.
Does that go back to EQ?
In what sense?
Like
maybe.
Emotional intelligence, like being aware of how you're feeling about something?
That's a good point. Yeah, if you don't have great EQ, I guess you just keep going until you implode. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or handle it badly.
Yeah, or you handle it badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I do know that at the end of the day, there was also this last stat about 76% of surveyed leaders indicate that burnout among their staff is some level of an issue.
Yeah.
So 3/4 of people in nonprofits are saying most of my staff are struggling a lot. And we talked about that last week with people getting out of the profession, and that gets back to the calling helps you stay in. But also being healthy helps you stay in.
Yeah.
One of the best things I ever did was start rucking, weighted backpack hiking stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been fabulous. And you got to have some way to offload and toughen yourself in a sense, even physically, which helps you bear the emotional stress weirdly somewhat better, I think.
Yeah.
At least it does for me.
Yeah, and when you're physically healthy, you just feel better.
You feel better, and you're a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's actually a thing.
Okay, so another question for you.
Yeah.
What role will technology play in leadership going forward, do you think?
Oh, golly. Yeah, it clearly plays a really major role, but we were just talking before we went on air with Vance, our producer, and we were talking about the just this kind of difficulty that AI is going to have in actually making money for companies. And all the money that's been invested, will they ever recoup that money? And then will there be enough power to power all the AI farms and all this kind of stuff? So there's reasons to think there might be a bursting of the AI bubble, and I've seen this on various sites as well lately. Now, what that means in the end, I don't know. So, but having said that, even with that, leaders have to decide how we're going to talk about AI, how we're going to use generative technology in schools. My guess is, I would guess, I'm going to project, less than we currently think.
Okay.
I think for some, there'll be a lot of early adopters, and it's already true.
Yeah.
There's a local public school here with a robot going around saying to the kids, hey, third grade class, can I help you? I'm your friend. I can help you. Okay, let's leave the friend part out.
Yeah.
Maybe you can help in some way. So that's where that gets really weird to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be present, but I think it's going to be perhaps actually less once this tidal wave of early adoption happens.
Yeah.
I think we're going to come back and say the same thing in a few years that we said about Chromebooks recently.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think this is great for kids.
Right.
It'll still be there, though.
Yeah.
And so they have to learn how to deal with technology.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
But really, I think it's back to the EQ. It's the interpersonal stuff. When your staff member comes in and says, I feel horrible. I can't do this job anymore, and I'm not showing up tomorrow. I can't. Well, you better have a plan.
Yeah.
And teachers are not widgets.
Right.
They're really hard to replace. So those things and that's why you have to really take care of your people.
Yeah.
High expectations, but high support. And that's what we all as schools need to get much better at.
Yeah, I like that. So would you say one of the reasons we don't have the leaders that we need would be because we don't have the teachers or future leaders don't have high support?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good connection. I think that maybe they didn't have a tremendous amount of support growing up in some cases, not all, and probably an increasing number of cases, maybe not as much. And then there's not a lot of support. And we talked last week, I think, about, was it last week? I think we talked about how teaching and education is not a very respected profession.
Right.
That's a huge reason.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you get tired of people making fun of you. Or why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? That gets old for some people especially. So I think it's all of those things, just like we said with teachers. With leaders, it's the same thing. The difference with leaders is they're often compensated well.
Right.
So you can, the way I say it is, you can play really well.
Yeah.
If you're in a school, or particularly a faith-based school, it's not like you're being paid enough to just schedule more trips to Aspen.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't have all the toys, and typically you just can't play as easily or as well. So it's even harder.
Yeah, it's more about calling at that point.
Right. And it all circles back to that, right? Because at the end of the day, what keeps people moving on a leadership track, I believe, first of all, just to reiterate something I said a minute ago, is somebody believed in them.
Yeah.
And they said, I think you're going to be a really good leader one day. But you have to show up, you have to work at it, et cetera, et cetera. And I try to do that with people when and try to be honest about it, right? But so when I see somebody that has leadership potential, I'll tell them. I say, I really think if you would do this, and I try to do that with young people too. So I think it starts with somebody planting that seed that says, okay, this might be possible.
Yeah.
And then it's about, do you know how to work hard? As we say in the leadership program, do you know how to endure sustained hardship cheerfully and faithfully? Well, I remember when we first wrote that and we started sharing with people like way back in 2006, when we first started the leadership program, people were like, what are you saying right now? So you're like intentionally understanding and communicating that enduring sustained hardship is a thing? I'm like, yes, look around.
Yeah.
Look at the world. Yes. Leaders have to endure sustained hardship with a decent attitude and faithfully.
Yeah.
And keep showing up. What did we say last week? The average educational leader is, I think, 3 to 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
In a school, then they might go to another school.
Yes.
Yeah. Was there a stat? Did I see a stat somewhere? Oh, this is from K12dive.com. Half of school leaders say their stress is so high they're considering a career change in early retirement.
Yeah.
That's half.
That's half.
Wow. So if you don't feel called to the profession, you're going to pull the ripcord.
Yeah. It goes back to what you were saying, though. Hang in there, be forged a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were saying, as a teacher, if they stay the 5-year mark, didn't you last week? You said 5
years is like a litmus, and then again at 15 or so. Yeah.
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 Then
you have a better chance.
They have a better chance of sticking with it.
This is a great connection, Kelly, because that's connecting this idea of forming and forging to what we're talking about. So if you allow yourself, if you put yourself in that path to be formed and forged.
Yeah. You learn how to adapt and overcome.
Yes. Wow. You're just nailing it today.
Yeah.
That's great. So all those connections are a thing, right?
Yeah.
So the job of a gospel-centered school is to help people make those connections that you just made.
Yeah.
And not just press ahead willy-nilly without much strategy. But to actually, and also to admit that there are a lot of challenges in the process.
Yeah.
So nobody should ever say leadership is easy.
Right.
It is definitely not easy, but it's incredibly necessary. It's a gifting on one hand, although on the other hand, we didn't get to the question about are leaders born or made. I think the answer is yes. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think there are some people who just have a set of natural
I agree with
traits.
that. Yeah.
But then, like, for example, the U.S. military would say, no, it's anybody can be made into a leader.
Okay.
And okay, fine. But whether they'll be a great leader or not, I don't know.
Right.
But the point is, you can teach people the skills of leadership. So I think it's kind of both. Yeah. But I do know this, that there's been many times when I've wanted to quit.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think everybody could say that.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been, and I would even say there's been seasons in my life where there's been a lot of days strung together. Yeah. Where I went home and I went, no. Nope. And then I utter these words that you hope you not utter, right? Which is, I don't think this is worth it. Mm-hmm. And then, so where do you go from that place, right? Well, you have to be reminded of why it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And so maybe a good place to close for us today is for all the leaders who may be listening out there, wherever they happen to be around the world. Leadership is necessary, but that's not a reason you should do it, right? Yeah, it's necessary in the big picture. But leadership is a gift that you can give somebody else that literally can change their life. It's like we said about teachers last week, right? So why be a leader? Part of it's altruistic. The world needs really good leaders because there's not very many percentage-wise. There are a lot of poor leaders. The second reason is for you. Because honestly, for all of the challenges in being a leader, similarly to being a teacher over time, you get to watch people pick up the ball. And you get to watch them exercising and growing and having the edges sanded off, and you see them being successful, and you're like, yes. That it's like a coach of a team or something. Yeah. It's just the same thing. It's like coaching is hard too, right? Yeah. Why do it? That moment when somebody gets it, just like for a teacher, and that student goes, yeah, oh, okay. That's the moment. And you realize that is profound. And I can't really think of another profession that besides leadership that is as profound, because teaching is a form of leadership.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would say, don't quit, because you may find you can't do anything else because it is a calling.
Yeah.
And you just may need a season to recover.
Yeah. It's for reflection.
For sleeping. Yeah. You just may need a season to step out of, go back to the MASH hospital and just recover before you go back to the front. Yeah. Because every leader does need, I think you mentioned sabbaticals. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody does sabbaticals hardly anymore. Yeah. I think that's crazy. If anything, we need sabbaticals more.
Some of the best pastors I know do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And pastors do it probably, I don't know what the stats are, but I bet you they tend to do it more than most other professions. It's hard to imagine a CEO of a major company saying, I'm going on a sabbatical. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they do. But at any rate, but districts and school boards building in time for that for school leaders, hint, is actually.
Hey, did you guys hear this?
That was a really selfless, self-promoting. It was terrible. Sorry, I'm really just kidding. But I think that would be really smart of people to do. So give people a chance to recover so they can re-engage and being able to keep doing what they do.
Yeah, that would lessen burnout.
Yeah, well, you'd hope, you'd think so, right? Yeah. Yeah. What a great topic. Love this topic.
This is good.
It's been great. Thanks for the dialogue today. Yeah. And thank you guys for watching. It's always a pleasure. We are so grateful that you've tuned in. So we're going to end this the way we usually end things by saying, if you forget everything else that we said, remember that Jesus Christ is Lord and His call in our life is to live the kingdom. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Gospel Centered Education Podcast, brought to you by Community Christian School in Tallahassee, Florida. You can find us online at myccs.org.